What is going on, guys? Today I am going to be lifting the 1989 Toyota Hilux 118 scale. This is going to be a DIY modification, so anybody that has a drill or I guess a really hard or strong screwdriver could do this, but definitely recommend a drill. So if you haven't seen my other video, I did the same lift to my 118 Easy RC Glacier, and as you can see, all I did was move the stock shock mounts to just below that, still in the frame here, and as you can see, it gives it a nice little lift there over the original stock height of the Toyota. Now I do like this height. I wasn't planning on doing this lift, but I like the step sides on here, and it seems to get caught on rocks and stuff, especially when you start to get a little bit of that flex going over the smaller or taller rocks and things like that. So what I'm gonna do is probably the same thing. Yes, it is a little dirty. Been messing around with them out in the weather and stuff. So just gonna take these wheels off and adjust that top mount just down below on the frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my drill, and I recommend using the 1/16 drill bit. It seems to drill the perfect hole for the actual bolts. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the wheels off and start with that. Okay, so I have all four wheels off, the bolts are here. I'm actually going to be switching these wheels out just to fill out the wheel wells here in a minute. These are SCX 24 wheels, and they really looked good on this as it's lower to the ground, but I'm going to switch to the Glacier wheels that are black and make this thing look a little bit better once it's lifted. So now I have my screwdriver out here, or my hex driver. I'm just going to, the lighting is terrible, I'm just going to take it and unscrew this top shock mount. And again, anybody at home can easily do this. You don't need anything special. As you can see, the screw came out. Gonna lay that there, and all we're gonna do is take that shock down, kind of twist it to where I can get a good angle on the frame. And I probably could have cleaned this up a little bit more, but what's the fun in that? So I have this side out. I'm gonna do the same here. Alright, that should be out. Yep, there it goes. So put that down, and now you can see we have the front shocks free. And for the rear, it's actually kind of tricky because it's at an angle, so I didn't really think this through before filming this, so I'm gonna go ahead and try and figure this out before I start jacking up the body or anything. Okay, so after a few minutes of troubleshooting, I was actually able to get one side free. I just came at it from an angle here, and you can kind of push the body back just ever so slightly, and thankfully these aren't on there so tight. So if you just get in there, then you start unscrewing, it'll come loose. And so I'm not so worried about it, one, because I have spare nuts and bolts here, but also because we're going to be drilling a completely separate spot for the the shock mount. So again, I'll try and do this with one hand here. It took me a few minutes to try and figure something out, but this is basically all I did, was came at it from a side, and again you can see that it's coming out fairly easy. So all it takes is a little patience with this stuff, and as you can see, I'm kind of not really getting it to cooperate with me. So I'm going to get this side out and clean up the frame where I'm going to drill a hole, and then I'll show you guys how this ends up turning out. Okay, so as you can see, all 4 shock mounts are loose and they are off of the frame. Now it helps that I've already done this already with the Glacier. So basically what I'm going to do, as you can see, I kind of wipe down some of the areas that I'm going to potentially mount this to, and for a good reference I'm going to kind of use the frame mount area that I did on the Glacier. So as you can see, that's the front end is just below the original stock, or the original mount for the suspension, and the rear is a little bit further and away from the original location, which is there. So I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going to mount this to. And again, what I'm using for this is just your everyday drill bit set. This is the, careful not to drop the screws there, this is the 1/16 bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get these holes drilled, and I'll fill you guys in on how that goes. I'm not going to be able to, well, I might be able to get this on film, so go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to do this as slow as I can, just so I don't really mess anything up. Get a better angle on it. Just going to slowly drill into it. Doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. Also don't want to break the drill bit in the process, so almost through. Oops. Almost there. And I did exactly what I didn't want to do, is break the bit. So go ahead and get another one out and we'll finish this up. Alright, so after that little blunder, I ended up getting the other side drilled. As you can see, it looks right about the same size as the original hole there. And I have this side already mounted up. And I'll show you guys at the end. I'm really still looking for some good quality suspension for these trucks. It seems like it's impossible to find 118 parts for these so far. I know they're kind of newer to the market, but I did try a pair of the 124 axial parts on here, and they didn't seem to want to fit. I mean, I could probably change out some of these lower components here to make that work, but again, I just hate ordering stuff that I know that it isn't going to work. So now I'm going to show you how to bolt this up. It would be just like any other time. I'm going to take that. It's kind of tricky with one hand, so I'm going to go ahead and get that lined up. It's in there, and oh, I lost this little metal piece. Might have to just get the other one. Alright, so gonna measure this, or not measure, but get that all lined up. Get the bolt in there, and now we just need to line up the hole. So there we go. And as you can see, bolts right up and goes right in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this last part in, and I'll update you guys then when the suspension is all together. Alright, after a few moments of struggling to try and catch this on film, I decided to put the camera down and just go ahead and finish up. So as you can see, I have repositioned all 4 shock mounts to a new location, and I'm going to be putting on the Glacier tires and wheels. Yeah, again, the suspension is just so stiff, not a whole lot of play. Could be partial to the new location that I put the suspension in, and it's just kind of hanging up, so might have to do some adjusting. But again, if anybody knows any suspension that works for these, or any workarounds, you know, to get these to work, that would be great. Again, if you're gonna drill, just make sure you don't put it that close. I kind of screwed up the body here, but I might have a few other plans for this body anyway. So and again, that'll be in the future that I'm gonna do that, and to go over some of these 3D printed parts that I found. Anyway, get to the chase. I'm gonna go ahead and get these tires and wheels on and show you the end result.